Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today we celebrate the birthday of the late saxophonist Dennis Payton. Now, Dennis Payton was an integral, and I mean super integral member of the Dave Clark Five. Now, the Dave Clark Five are kind of painted with a broad brush within these other so-called British invasion beat groups, which is what they called rock and roll in the UK at the time. Um, where I don't know if that's really the best way to paint them because their sound was very different than a lot of the increasingly cookie cutter type of music that was coming out at the time. And there were two reasons for that. One is that the band was led by a drummer, which was very unusual. Bands typically had either a standalone lead singer like Eric Burdon or Roger Daltrey, Animals and the Who, respectively, or lead singers that played guitar, Paul McCartney, for instance, John Lennon. But this wasn't, well, Paul McCartney was a bass player, but still bass guitar. Unusual for a drummer. But that was the first thing that was unusual. And the other thing that was unusual is that they had a saxophone that was integral to the sound of the band. Now, saxophone hadn't really been a stranger to rock and roll per se. Look at Rock Around the Clock by Bill Haley and the Comets, the saxophone. But by this time, it was withdrawing to its more comfortable territory of jazz, but not so with the Dave Clark Five. And what's more important is that it wasn't just there to provide solo flourishes, as it was in so many other hits, Tequila, for example, by the Champs. The saxophone in the Dave Clark Five really served as a kind of rhythm guitar, often playing similar parts as the rhythm guitar and really giving it a loud sort of metallic texture to the band that made it pop out, especially on AM radio, which would have been the way most people would have listened to the Dave Clark Five in the 60s. Now, they were all great writers. The band came up with excellent original material. That's really, if you want feel-good music, they were sort of those British beat bands from the early 60s. They were the feel-good one. If the Who were the ones who were getting increasingly introspective, if the Kinks were all about pseudo-political and sometimes hardcore political and social commentary, if the Rolling Stones were the raunchy ones, if the Animals were the bluesy ones, the Dave Clark Five were the fun ones. And it was genuine fun music without pretense. And that's why I think it really stands the test of time and can be played and enjoyed today, and it will get your toes tapping. And again, Dennis Payton's saxophone, such a huge part of that band. One that I think is a bit overlooked because they did have that X factor, should I say, the sax factor. So here's to Dennis Payton, wishing him a very happy birthday, although he left us many years ago. But as always, with great music, the legacy will live on. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.